Now, have they shown interest to get into acting because of you or because of whatever? And then what kind of advice do you end up giving them when it comes to that?
So I have been approached so many times, particularly when we lived in Los Angeles. We lived in LA for a really long time, and I would get scouted like I was a walking ATM. You know, my kids are mixed race and they've got this big, beautiful hair. And so people would see us, and I've gotten scouted by so many agents, mostly modeling, some commercial agents. And I never took any meetings, mainly because it's a big job. And I don't think people realize what the job is of a stage mom or stage parent. I don't even want to go to my own, you know, auditions and pressers and this kind of stuff. Like, it's a lot of work. And so I've sort of resisted it for a long time. But my one daughter, Hannah, things just keep happening for her. I mean, she's been on the Ellen show a bunch of times because we used to live in Burbank, and they would scout and they'd have her come in and do these little, particularly now that we've moved to completely online with self-tapes. So Hannah does all my auditions with me, and I'm like, you're good. Like, instinctually, she's a really good performer, and she's naturally an artist. She's a what's it called? She paints. What's the term? I'm totally losing it.
Prodigy?
Anyway. No. I was gonna say visual artist, but not. Anyway, she paints, she draws, she writes. She's just an artist in terms of the way she expresses herself.
Okay.
And so I just directed my first short, and I wanted to write a story that was a story that I understood. And so I wrote a story about a mother and a daughter, and I asked Hannah, would you feel comfortable being in it? And at first she was resistant. She's like, I don't want to mess up your movie. You're spending all this money on it and this time, and it's going to be your showpiece. And I was like, trust me. Like, if I think you can do it, you've got to trust me. Particularly as a director, I had to understand that I could, you know, garner her trust.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I promise I won't make you look bad. I promise I'm going to get the best takes. And so it was a good exercise for me. And for her. And then she was resistant to it, but she really actually enjoyed it. And then just a few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we're talking about another movie that I want to direct that I'm putting together. I'm putting a deck together for it. And he was like, hey, do your kids act at all? I have this movie. And so he's hired her, and she's doing his little Christmas movie. And we're shooting that in January in New Mexico. So I think, and she's actually just signed with a modeling agency last year as well. So Hannah definitely is moving towards that direction. And gosh, I feel so lucky to have had a 25-year career to advise her, you know? And I'm like, you don't have to take all my advice. And if you just choose not to take this path, that's totally your choice. But if you do, like, I feel really grateful. Like, you'll have avoided so many of the pitfalls that I think I fell into just because I didn't have the experience. I'm sure she'll be directing and producing far before me if she goes into that path. Just to have the confidence of knowing, like, that's the natural evolution if you choose it.
Yeah.